Hi, welcome to Rebooted Mindset, formerly Rebooted the podcast. I'm your host, Alida Hernandez. Come join me every Wednesday and Sunday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time to hear real-life conversations with experts around the world on how we can heal our body, mind, soul, and spirit. So let's get talking. Hi, everybody. Alida Hernandez, Rebooted Mindset. I'm back again, episode 51. I can't believe it. 51. Today I'm with Andrew McConnell, right? How do you say your name?
McConnell. Yeah.
McConnell, sorry. Andrew McConnell. And he wrote a fabulous book called Get Out of Your Head, Creating Modern Clarity and Stoic Wisdom. So we're going to deep dive into that and exactly what that means. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, so I background was a swimmer all through school and everything, went to law school, decided that wasn't for me, tried banking, tried consulting, practiced law a little bit, and then just started doing my own thing. And so started a series of companies, sold my most recent company last year, back in 2022, which was rented.com. And yeah, and same year, published Get Out of My Head, Creating Modern Clarity with Stoic Wisdom. It's just something, a philosophy that I don't think Stoicism has a monopoly on, because I think there's a lot of just human truth to it. Taoism, Buddhism, a lot of Judeo-Christian thoughts around prayer and other things all come to very similar conclusions on this stuff. But it was something that really, really helped me. And as I looked around during COVID, we used to talk with rented.com about, we worked in the vacation rental space, right? And we say these homes are people's most expensive asset, most valuable asset, or second most valuable asset. And as I started looking around, I was saying, well, actually, our most valuable asset is not anything that we buy with money, because it can be taken away from us, it can break, it can go down. That's not all that valuable. Our most valuable asset is something we're actually born with, and it's our mindset. And yet we live our lives as tenants, not owners of that. We give it away. Someone else puts us in a bad mood. The person cuts us off in traffic and we're angry. We're worried. We can't fall asleep at night because we're worried what someone might do or say tomorrow. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. Why is this so common? Why are we all struggling with this? And sent me down this path of researching the biology behind it, and then how other cultures and times have dealt with this. And so that led to the publication to Get Out of My Head. Yeah.
That's awesome, because what you said is so true. I spent most of my life like that. Okay. I didn't learn about mindset till just recently. Okay. And it's changed my life completely. Okay. I mean, I manifested my whole studio, my business. I mean, it's just been amazing what the power within us, right? That we don't understand. And what I find is that we're so disconnected, like society, we're so disconnected. We have religion, right? We have different types of religions. They teach you morals, right? And they teach you a story. But now, since I was raised Catholic, and I was in the church all my life, Catholic schools, I read the Bible, and I always felt disconnected. There was something missing. And now that I understand the power within us and the control of your mind, now it makes more sense. Like I was missing that piece.
Yeah.
To make it complete. So now it's a bigger thing. It's bigger than us.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly in the most serious sense of the word, universal. And they have these quotes that we know about ChatGPT. The CEO of the company that created it, OpenAI, back in 2019, he was tweeting, "Don't let jerks live rent-free in your head." Taylor Swift sings about it. Everybody, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much, quote, success you have, everybody struggles with this, which means it's not something wrong with you. It's the human condition. But just because that's the default human condition doesn't mean we have to stay in that. The default human condition is to get sick. Like, we didn't have antibiotics. The default was we didn't have antibiotics. You get a scratch, it gets infected, you die. just because something is the natural default doesn't mean we have to stick with it. So once we know what's going on, to your point, you say, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, my mindset is naturally going to jump ahead to this thing, but I can start noticing when it's doing that and say, you know what? I don't want to do that. That's exactly. Not a good use. That's not going to make me happy. That's not going to make me successful. Let me step it back and take more proactive control, more agency in deciding the mindset I want to take into this situation. We don't have to default to our lizard brain, the fear, the fight, the flight. We don't have to do that. We have enough in our prefrontal cortex to be able to pause, step back, and take that control back.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping here at Rebooted Mindset, right? I had changed it. My podcast was Rebooted the Podcast. And then I changed the Rebooted Mindset because it made more sense.
Yeah.
Because one, I said I got rebooted because I'm a techie. So because I had a stroke 6.5 years ago. Wow. So I kept saying, I got rebooted. My mind got rebooted. My RAM got clear. You know, like I would joke around about it. Right. So people are like, what? I go, yeah, I got rebooted. And I literally did, because 6.5 years ago, when that happened to me, I had to change my thought process of my life.
Yeah.
Because I got to a point in my life, I was physically unhealthy. I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I was abusing my body basically with alcohol and things, right? Yep. And food, and really not living to my potential. I was so unhappy, and which made me sicker. And then I had diabetes, so that was all totally uncontrolled. And when I had the stroke, thank goodness that it wasn't a bleeding stroke, that I was able to recover. I did have a long trek ahead of me because I did lose 50% of my left side. So I had to do pool therapy and just constantly, but my will, my strength and my mind, right? And my will and my spirit to live was so big that I pushed forward, because I have 2 children, and I was going to make sure I was going to see my kids get married, maybe have children. Like I wanted to see them grow up. I wasn't ready to die yet.
Yeah.
So I told everybody I made a decision. Either live or die. So I decided to live and continue. And I went through acupuncture and detoxing my body and just learning. And until now that I'm in a great group of women, a sisterhood, and we're all in the same mindset. We help each other. We hold each other up. We do sound healing. We do meditation. We do different things, Reiki. We do all these different things that I didn't understand. And I was fighting against it because of my religion. You know what I mean?
Right.
So because of the taught, and I have to talk about it because I think it's important that, unfortunately, faith, you can have faith and that's wonderful, but religion itself, the institution, okay, can change the way you think.
Well, it's intended to, right? It's designed to.
Right. But you don't realize how much.
Yeah.
You don't think about, you go to church, you're not thinking they're going to change your mind, right? I mean, you think it's a spirit. It's more like, oh, I'm going to change my spirit. I'm going to help my soul, right? But you don't realize that it's conditioning your mind. So now you think a different way, but you're still missing that piece about mindset, about how you think, you know, that you have, and you can explain more, but how we have control over our lives.
Yeah. And it's not just religion. It's anything that we're conditioned to is shaping our mind and our mindset. So you think about learned helplessness, right? The dogs that they put in this, you can't really do these studies anymore, but they did them in the 70s. And they'd put them in this container where they were shocking the floor. But they would make the walls so high the dog couldn't jump and get out, just stuck in it. And they'd do it long enough, and then they'd go put the dog in the same situation with a low wall, and they'd shock the floor, and the dog would just not even try it, because they had learned, hey, I can't do anything to escape this. It's the same they do with elephants, right? They tie up the baby elephant when it's really, really little to this post, and so it learns I can't get away, so that by the time it's a big adult, it could just rip up the whole tent, do everything. But it's learning, no, I can't move. If I'm tied up to this, I'm stuck. It doesn't even try. And so it's not really about religion. It's about the environment that we get conditioned to. And that becomes our default mindset. And it takes at times something traumatic, like a stroke, like a reboot, to say, wait, okay, that way of thinking isn't the only way of thinking. There's a whole world of possibility out there. I get it.
Mhm.
Actually, I have the ability to choose how I think, not just to think what I've always thought. I can choose how to think. And that's where, the book, it's really resonates more kind of 35 to 55-year-old. It's people, they're kind of where they are in their career. They're rethinking what they're doing. And that's where it clicks. But people say, hey, who is this meant for? Say, where it might have the most impact is with middle schoolers, is with 14-year-olds. Because if you set this baseline before you start getting into the cliques and high school and college and jobs and everything, think about how much more agency you could exercise in your life if you knew that from that young an age. But it takes us so long to even discover we have that possibility. The rest of the time, we get baked in whatever environment we are. We say, okay, well, we're stuck here. This is what it is. This is what life is. And it takes us a while. Some people, they never get it. But it takes us a while to look up and say, wait a minute. There are a whole lot of other ways of thinking, of being, of living. And those possibilities were always there. We just weren't able to see them because of the environment.
Right. And it's unfortunate that our school system, that's a whole nother subject, right? I'm happy my kids are grown now, but that our schools, like what you said, is so true. It should start in the school. It should start when they're young. If you can show these young children, especially now, I've had some interviews with some other people that our children are really in danger now, because since 2020, the suicide rate has gone up dramatically to the point which I'm still in shock even saying it. There's one woman, she told me she works at a school, and these kids, young, 10 years old, 9 years old, have suicide plans from written down from start to finish, like when I'm going to do, what time, everything. I can't even fathom that in my head. Why a child so young would think that that's okay and have a plan to kill themselves, because society and the internet, there's too much information out there. And I don't think, we, as parents don't monitor the time on the computer, on the phone. It's become now, something that children live on the phone constantly. And they're not watching what information is coming out here, because everything's on the internet. So they're it's just really sad. It breaks my heart to even think that there's children out there like that are suffering with depression.
You bring up a good point. It's too much information. So let's just put this in context, right? The human brain has evolved to bring in 11 million bits of information every second. Every second, 11 million bits, all our senses, what we see, all the colors, our sounds, the smells, the taste, everything is pouring into our brain. But we're only able to process, right? Like that's all kind of thing. But we're only able to process. What percent of that 11 million? What do you think we're processing?
Like 2%? I don't know.
Way less. 50 bits out of 11 million. 50.
Wow.
That's all we're able to process. Now let's think what we would have evolved to process. So humans around 300,000 years. For 295,000 of those years, we're hunting and gathering. We're going to the watering hole. We're trying to stay alive. We get to the watering hole. It's beautiful. We're looking out. There's zebras, there's giraffes. It's a great sight. And we hear a little rustling on the side. And we have an ancestor who is a stop and smell the roses kind of person. She hears the rustling and she's like, I'm going to enjoy this beautiful sight in front of me. Well, that's all well and good, except those times that rustling was a lion and that lion jumps and eats her. Those genes didn't come to us. The stop and smell the roses, the person that chose the beauty of the 50 bits out of the 11 million, that person didn't live. So their genes didn't come down to modern people. What if we had someone who was an optimist? They hear the rustling and they say, you know what? there are 100 times more meerkats than there are lions. I hear the rustling, but I'm going to be an optimist and assume it's a meerkat. That person's right 99 times out of 100. That's great. But all it takes is one time and that person's dead. Lion eats that person. The optimist genes didn't come to us. The person who sees a 50 bits and sees the rosiest picture. The 50 bits that kept our ancestors alive were to imagine the worst thing that possibly could be coming to them and to always be on edge, because that's what kept them alive. But now we are not constantly in physical danger. We have climate controlled environments that we're living in. We know where food's coming from. So that 50 bits is making us unhappy. There's a separate problem that today, every single day, we produce more information than all of human history prior to the year 1900. So this was a problem 50 years ago. This was a problem 10 years ago, but the problem is getting worse. Every TikTok video, every podcast, every book, all the information constantly being poured onto our children, onto ourselves, makes it impossible to filter down to make it the good 50. We see all of this, we can't ingest it, and we jump to the 50 worst things, the 50 bits out of that 11 million we're bringing in. And again, it's not the kid's fault. It's the biology. Their brain evolved for a world that they're not being raised in. And you have to override the biology. Otherwise you end up in these situations.
Yeah, it's a society. I mean, our lives aren't easy. And like I said, if I knew this 20 years ago, wow, who knows where I would be right now.
Yeah, but I mean, the best time to learn it, right, is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So
exactly. That's why I say, because I go, I'm here for a reason. I survived, and I've survived some other things too in my life that I go, it's not meant for me to leave yet until I give a message out there for other people. So that's how I feel that I finally came to my my purpose in my life, just to give back and to help other people change their mindset and live a better life, a fulfilled life, a happy life, a life that they can help their children and their grandchildren, especially, if, you can affect your children as much as you can, but if you can't, make sure that you can affect your grandchildren, especially before, I don't have any yet. So forget it. When my grandchildren are born, I'm going to be on it.
Yeah. And the best way to do that is by example, right?
Exactly.
It's just showing what living like that can look like, what thinking like that can look like. That's the best you can do for anyone is be that model. We could say the words all we want, but as they always say, children won't always do as you say, but they will do as you do.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, my kids are in their 20s. I mean, they see the difference on me, my transformation, my more peaceful and all the stuff that I've accomplished in a year. They're like, they don't even question me like, Mom, how'd you do that? Because they know I have drive. And even through my worst times that they've seen me, they know that I've changed my life for the better. And they appreciate that, and they've done the same thing. I mean, my younger one, he's 23. He's transformed his body. He was overweight. Now he's completely fit, bodybuilding, going to a competition. Wow. And my other son is a data analyst and very, very smart. And he's 27. And so they're both doing good. They're both doing good. And so I'm really grateful and thankful for that. That's for sure.
That's wonderful to hear.
So in your book, explains a little bit about the book and how helpful that is for other people out there.
Yeah. So the book, it takes this premise of real estate, that the real estate we own, right? You talked about all the things you went through with your stroke. Our body, we don't have full control over it. A virus gets in, a bacteria can make us sick, can kill it. Our body, we don't fully control. We can influence, we can't control it. Our physical items, right? They can be broken, they can be stolen. Russian billionaires have shown no matter how much money you have, they can be taken away from you. The government can come confiscate, take it away. But our mindset is the one thing no one else can actually change. We decide if we want to take control or give it away. And despite that, our default state is to rent instead of own. So it says, okay, why is that? What are the biological reasons for it? And then what are the solutions to it? How do we stop renting to other people? How do we stop renting to events and circumstances entirely outside our control? How do we stop renting, to the most difficult, these different and imagined versions of ourselves? Oh, my parents really wanted me to do this. Oh, the future me is going to be like this. How do we stop that? And so the book goes through all these solutions for different manifestations of that problem. And not just, hey, here's the aha, right? Because plenty of books, right? You read, you're like, this is amazing. I'm so inspired. You put it down, you go live life the exact same way you always did. And nothing changes. And for me, that wasn't good enough. So each chapter has exercises and tools that you put in practice in your life to actually change. Because you talk about being healthy. You don't go eat healthy food for a week and say, great, I'm fixed. I'm eating cheeseburgers the rest of my life. You don't go to the gym for 1 year and say, okay, I got to my ideal weight. I don't ever need to worry about physical fitness again. No, it's an ongoing process. This is a process for life. And it's the same with our mindset and with mental health, that our biology is going to be working against us. And so this is an ongoing process. People ask all the time, okay, so how do you fix this? I say, look, maybe the Dalai Lama is set. Like he's fixed it and he's all good. But for the rest of us, it's an ongoing process. You can just get better at noticing when it starts going off the rails sooner. So you can course correct. But it's never going to be snap, okay, great, I have enlightenment and I'm all set. That's not a realistic target for any of us.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Because I mean, every day you kind of struggle with something, you know. And we talked about driving. I'm in South Florida. Okay, the traffic here is unbelievable. The drivers don't know how to drive because we have a lot of cultures. I really believe it's due to all the different cultures that we have.
Different styles of driving. Yeah,
different styles of driving, and they think they're in their country, and maybe in their country they do certain things that we don't hear or whatever. Yeah. And it's frustrating. So I get in the car and it's like, I'm peaceful when I get in. I don't say I'm peaceful when I get out. Yeah. But, you know, every day you have those challenges. So it's learning how to react to things. That's what I've learned. How to, when a situation comes up, before I would scream and, you know, curse and they can't even hear you. I used to laugh. I go, they can't hear you. Why are you screaming? So before that would be reaction. Now my reaction is, you know what? I'm just staying on my lane and I'm driving. If they're in a rush, they can go around. And I just crank the radio on and I just zone, you know, keep myself in that state and I just keep driving, you know. So it has to do with how you react to things, right? And again, changing your mindset, understanding that you have the control not to be angry, not to be fearful. You know, all these different emotions that come up, that you can control the emotion. Because I've been learning to do that. I used to have panic attacks, and I learned that that's fear. It's a fear, right? It's your body reacting to a physical, you have emotional fear and it physically manifests in your body. So the other day, I had some thoughts and I was getting fearful and I could feel the anxiety literally coming up, like it was coming up from the ground like this. Up.
Yeah.
And I went, no. Yeah. And I just said, no. And I went, and I like squished it. And I said, no, I have no fear because I'm in control of my mind. And I'm not going to get that little fear to creep in to get me to change my mindset, to help me to think I'm going to think a different way. Right. Yeah. And the minute I did that, it went away. I was like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like, that was like amazing. That was a huge thing, like a huge breakthrough to actually stop the anxiety, a panic attack, and realize that I was causing it myself in my own mind because from past things that I've done, from the past of being fearful, I would have panic attacks because I was lost. I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So it was just automatic.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the not just reacting, right? Getting in the car and other people. Marcus Aurelius was the Roman emperor, and he kept this personal journal that's been published for thousands of years now, and it's called Meditations, and it's his journal to himself with a lot of these things. And I'm not going to get the exact wording right, but he has this one reminder. One morning he said, today you're going to meet with selfish people, you're going to meet with jerks, with right, all these things. This is what today is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And so you can kind of inoculate yourself before you put yourself in those situations. Say, hey, I'm not going to wake up and expect everyone to go out of their way to be nice to me and do everything for me, right? I'm going to come across all these different kinds of people today. Right. And I just know that going in. So if my expectations, everything's going to be perfect for me, and it doesn't meet that, I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be sad. If I go in and say, you know what? Everybody's facing 1,000 invisible battles that I have no idea about. That person racing around, sometimes I'm late and I may race around and I know why I'm doing it. My child just got checked into the ER. I'm trying to get there. I want to be there for it, right? That person zooming around, they may have the same situation. I have no idea. Maybe they're just trying to go get tacos. Maybe. I don't know. But maybe they have something else going on. I don't know what invisible battles they're fighting today.
Right. That's true.
And so it just inoculating helps make it a little easier to give that grace to others too, as you go through it. And then to that point of noticing, what are the triggers? What are the signals? What are the symptoms when it starts happening? I know mine, my chest starts to tighten up, right? My heart rate starts to go up. And so when I start noticing these things happening, mm-hmm. the one thing I know to start do is to stop talking. Like, I need to stop talking immediately. I need to start listening better. I need to start breathing deeper breaths. Mm-hmm. And I need to come back down so that I am the person I want to be in this situation, not the person my fear or anger or whatever is triggering me to be. Let me pull it back. Maybe I'm not hearing fully, right? I'm focused on this one mouth as opposed to these two ears. I'm focused on what all these things, these stories I'm telling myself versus what may actually be happening in this situation. Exactly. And so your example of the fear, feeling it coming up, right? Like, the symptoms, the triggers of, oh, I know where this is going, helps you to take back that control. You always had it. You just didn't realize you had it until you start recognizing the triggers and the symptoms.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And once you start getting, I've been, I would say intuitive about my body, about certain things, like, and I don't understand how other people don't even realize that they have a problem physically, just mm-hmm. at a, say you have a pain in your leg or whatever, like, after a while, like, if it's still going on, you need to check it. You know what I mean? Like, some people are just like, oh, it's fine. And they just keep going on. And some people might have cancer. Some people have, what I mean? That they don't even realize these symptoms. And it always boggles my mind when a person goes in and they go, I have stage 4 cancer. And you didn't have one symptom. You can't tell me you didn't have any symptom. Like, people are not even aware of their bodies.
Well, because it can happen so slowly over time. This is back to, we're all fighting 1,000 invisible battles, right? That if you woke up one day and it went from 0 to that, it'd be very clear to you, like, okay, no, something is not right. But it doesn't happen like that. It's one day it's this little niggle, and then, okay, it's a little more, but it happens so slowly, you become acclimatized to it. It becomes the water you're swimming in. You think this is just what it is. It gets back to the mindset, right? Like, if you're raised in this environment, whether it's the church or the school or whatever it is, that is the only world you know. And so if it's every day, it just feels like, oh, this is just what life is. This is just what it feels like. I can have some empathy with them on that, because it's, you go break an arm, people go to the hospital for that. Like, it feels very different from 10 seconds ago to right now. It's very clear something's wrong. I need to go fix this. But if it's something that's slow build, it's very hard for a lot of people to recognize, because it's just 0.5% different each day. It steps it into it.
And it goes back to, again, how we were trained, right? Our mind has been trained since we were born. So you have, a whole lifetime of how do you call it? You have to reprogram your subconscious, your brain, and it's really amazing. I was just listening yesterday to about getting to the fifth dimension. I don't know. I was listening to something
Yeah.
yesterday. I was so confused, but it's just the levels of consciousness and things like that. I'm always reading and learning and trying to absorb information. I'm a how do you call it? I love information, right?
Yeah.
So, being that I was a technical person all my life, fixing computers and systems, I used to be an IT manager for a big data center.
Okay.
So I've always been analytical, right? So I'm always like looking for cause and effect kind of thing. And but I was so into the world, into my job, right? Into my job that I didn't fix me. Like I was trying to fix me, but I really wasn't because I wasn't paying attention. I really wasn't paying attention to certain things. And now that I've started to take control of my thoughts and my habits, it's like, wow. I just tell people, wow. And I'm an example, like you're saying, we have to be an example. So people can see by my life and what I've accomplished, and people who really know me for a long time, they see it. They go, wow, Alida, you really changed your life, everything. And go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about you thought you're taking care of you, but it really wasn't. And that's very few people go through the work and the exercise of understanding what it is they want. Right? They just kind of default that they do whatever the group they're around does. Like, okay, I get this kind of car, or I move to this kind of neighborhood, or whatever it is. My kids go to this kind of school, and they don't think, do they really want that? They just
Right.
see that this is the normal thing to do. But even the people that think about what is it that I want, almost no one goes to the next step of saying, why do I want that? Do I want that because I think it'll impress my parents? I think it'll impress the kids I grew up with that I haven't talked to in 20 years. Like, why is it that I want this particular thing? Very, very few people dig into that. And so almost no one knows what their core self really wants, right? Because they say, okay, I want this, but the why may be something that actually isn't them that wants it. It's someone else wanted it for them.
Right.
So that becomes what they pursue. And it takes a lot of unpacking and unpeeling to get under all those layers of conditioning from our environment, from the people we've been around, to get to the kernel that is us, that's in there. It's always been in there, but we just get layered and layered on all through life. You got to peel it back, get back to us.
Yeah, the onion. So you can get the little center, right? The little right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's how we are. I feel like that's how we are. We're like this big onion, right? So we got all those layers. You got the childhood stuff and whatever. Your parents, they want you to do this, right? And many children, you hear them, oh, I'm going to be a doctor because my parents want to. I mean, you see it in movies. You see it everywhere. You hear about people, or just that we were raised to just go to school, get a job, get married, have children, and do the cycle all over again, right? And then have our children do the same thing, and we just go kind of follow along. We're like the herd. We're the herd of the horses. We just kind of move around and not realizing, what did you do all your life? Are you happy? Are you, what is your purpose? And it's taken me a long time. I never understood that. I always just ask God, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? I don't even know. Why am I here? And then going through struggles, you start getting even more disconnected from God, from faith, because you get discouraged. You get discouraged from disappointments or things that have happened, and then you blame, right? You blame other people, you blame God. You constantly doing that, and then you don't realize that it's not even that, it's you.
It always has been. It always will be.
It was you.
Back. Yeah.
And it's about taking that responsibility. I mean, I'm 58 years old and I'm learning this like the last few years. I'm going into this, and I feel so much better now. I feel like I've left this huge weight, of of past guilt, of all this guilt that I was accumulating, that you do things, oh, it's your fault, you're a sinner, you're like constantly somebody pointing your finger at you, because of decisions that I made in my life. And then I realized finally that the decisions I made them.
Right.
I had to take responsibility for what I went through because it was my fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault.
Yeah.
I chose to drink and get drunk, or I chose to do drugs, or whatever it is, right? You choose it
Yeah.
because of whatever is lacking in your mind. I mean, it's really amazing. And like you said, the only way you can be there for people is to show and prove how you live your life and be an example to others. And I find just being kind to people right now, I feel I'm very at peace. And my mission in life is just to help others to reach this goal, that they have a better mindset and they can change their life and make society better. I mean, I think that's the only thing our goal is to make the world we live in better and help one person at a time.
Yeah,
Just to-
you can't overstate that kindness point enough. This is a conversation I have with my daughter all the time, right? She's 7. She has all sorts of frustrations and can have a tantrum and do all this. I said, look, you need to feel whatever you're feeling. Feel it. If you're angry, if you're sad, whatever it is, feel it. But that never gives you the license to be unkind to someone else.
That's right.
Right? So you can feel whatever you want. And if you know you're going to say something unkind, do something unkind, take yourself out of the situation, because the feeling is not the problem. It's what you do with that feeling to others that can be the problem.
Yeah.
And in every situation, every interaction we have the choice to be kind. We can choose to be kind. And in every single one of those instances, that's the right answer. We always have that option, and we need to choose it. No one's great at it. I mean, there are people that are great at it. No one's perfect at it.
Right.
And so you got to have grace with yourself as well, but know that you can keep getting better, because that is always a choice we have, and it's always the right choice.
Yeah, exactly. I watch, there's a few people on YouTube that do acts of kindness. And there's one guy, that he really just randomly goes up to homeless people and he'll ask them, what is your biggest regret in life? He'll ask them, and they'll tell him. They'll say something like, I left the mother of my daughter, or I left my child, and they talk about it and they have the emotion. And he comes and just gives them a note saying, like, don't give up. You're going to be good. You'll be fine. Just focus on this. And he gives them a little sentence, like just to change their mindset just for a moment there. And it always gets to me because, this one man said something like, he says, are you having a good day? He says, I am now, because you're talking to me. And he goes, why do you say that? He goes, because nobody will talk to me, because he's homeless. So they don't see him. They don't see them. And our society, unfortunately, we whatever we don't know, we fear, right? People are, I think it's just fear, ignorance on things. And I have where my studio is, there's homeless people in the street. And I say, hi, how are you? And, things like that. And let me tell you, it makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference to acknowledge a person that they exist. They feel like they don't exist. They feel like they're completely like nothing.
Because it's more conditioning. It's more conditioning. I remember going out the park 2 or 3 with my daughter, and there are homeless people sleeping. And he said, Daddy, why are people sleeping out here? So, well, they don't have a home. They don't have a bed. I said, well, can they come back and sleep in our home? Can they have our bed? Right? Like, again, from the mouths of babes, the children, they see them. Yeah. They see them. They wonder, wait, we have a bed. We're not in that bed right now. Why couldn't they be sleeping in our bed?
Right.
It's only the default is, oh, no. We just ignore that they're sitting there. We move on. We step past this. That over time you learn, because you see how all the adults around you are acting in this situation. Oh, this is how we treat these people. Because I would say that's actually not the default human state. The default human state, from what I've seen with children, is very different than the default for society. We condition ourselves to start acting like that.
Yeah, that's so true. It is so true. And I remember when I lived in California, and I used to drive through like a back street, like to get to downtown LA. And so I would go through some parts that weren't, too great, right? So I would see there was one homeless man I would see every day in the same spot. And it was like I was drawn to him. And I had never done anything. This was a long time ago, like 30 years ago. I had never done anything to help somebody in the street. I was a little afraid. I was truthfully afraid because I just didn't know. So I went and when I was home, I made a plate of food and everything the next day. And I brought like a little bag, and I went out and I made a little pamphlet with like all the 800 numbers you can call for help, like all this stuff. I put like $5, and I put a meal. And I went out and I was so scared, right? I got out of the car and I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I got out there and I said, excuse me, sir. And he's like, no, he didn't want to talk to me. I go, I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted to give you some food. He's like, no, no, no. And I said, well, I hope you have a good day, and I'll just leave it on the floor. So I left the bag on the floor. And as I got back into my car and I drove away, I looked in the mirror and I could see him going to get it. And you know that I never saw him after that day? I never saw him again. It was like, and I had chills when I talk about it, because I feel like it was like, was that an angel? Was that a test? You know what I mean? Or did he find his way and get to his family? I was just like, I mean, you know what it is to see a person every day for months, and I mean years, like a whole year would go by and I would see him. The day I gave him the food, the next day he was gone. I was like, I pray that means that he went and got somewhere, like, or
Right. That triggered like, hey, I am still a person. People do care. Let me, yeah. Oh
yeah,
man.
I don't know, but it was just, it just stayed to me. Like, I felt like, God, was that a sign? Was that like an angel in disguise to see if I would listen? You know what I mean? Because it was
Yeah.
so heavy on my heart. Every time I passed by, it was like, you need to stop. Literally, like I would hear like a voice, you need to stop. And I'm like, what is going on? And every day I would go by and I'm like, oh, this is really, it was weighing on me now. Now it was like every day. I'm like, no, I have to do something. So,
And you did.
And I did, and I did. And I pray that he found his way. I mean, it's been so many years. He's probably passed by now because he's an older man, but I try to do what I can. My husband always tells me, please stop picking up strays. Because between animals and people, if I could bring them home, I would. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he's like, he sees me. I said, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm feeding this homeless guy. And he just looks at me. He knows. He does the same thing too, but he knows how I am, that my heart is, I want to bring him home, like I want him to take a shower. I want him to, and we talk about that. If we ever won a lot of money, that I know what I'm going to do, because that's my heart is in that I would give back. I would definitely give back.
You want to do good by other people. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I already have a thought that I want to build a tiny house village for homeless people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then have it that they go for, like, say 3 to 6 months until they get themselves their own job and they got themselves good, and then they move out, and then somebody else can move into that tiny house so they can start getting out of the street. That's my goal.
It's a beautiful dream.
It just I believe that nobody should be homeless in the United States. I don't think anybody should be homeless anywhere.
Yeah, and mathematically, I think they've actually done pretty good studies of it is cheaper for society to just give them homes, right? Because of everything that comes, like once you have a stable home, then people are able to get jobs, and then they can stabilize them, and then they're not a burden on the system and everything. Exactly. Even if all you cared about was economics, and you just say, hey, I don't even care about doing right by people, but I just care about the right money answer. I believe the data shows the right money answer is to just give people homes. And
and I'm not sure where you live, but right now there's a crisis everywhere. I mean, LA, I used to work in Skid Row in LA.
Okay.
I used to volunteer at I used to go by the Union Rescue Mission, and I used to go to the Chrysalis Center that was downtown when they first started. and I used to do computer stuff for them for free, database and things like that. So they used to have a little center right in the heart of Skid Row that they would help people with clothing, like you needed a suit for a job. That would help you with your resume. They would give you like guidance. They gave you an address so you can have mail there. You can get an ID. Because you need an address for an ID. So a lot of these homeless people don't even have IDs because they don't have an address. So how are they supposed to get anything?
Yeah.
You can't even apply for food stamps or anything. You can't apply for government aid if you don't have an address. So they used to do things like that. And back then there were homeless people. And I remember I used to be so scared because that was my first time. I was in my 20s, right? And I would walk down the street and I would be like, why are all these people here? And I know now LA is insane now. Now it's like thousands and thousands of people.
10 cities.
Which is really sad. It's just really sad, So I'm happy that you wrote this book and that you're on our side, as they say, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. We're all on the same side. No one intentionally does something they think is wrong. Right. They have the reason. Back to we're fighting 1,000 invisible battles. They have the reason they think what they're doing is right. No one intentionally goes out of their way to do something they think this is bad. Like I'm a bad person doing this. People don't do that. It's from the outside. We say, man, that's a really bad person. They did that, but they have some story going on that tells them that this is the right thing for them to do. And so we're all on the same team. We're just working from different fact bases somehow, right? Now that we have alternative facts and all this, we're working off of different stories, different narratives. But the point you were talking about before, where it is truly universal, right? Like we all are from the same substance. We all go back to the same substance. We are all one. This is just this one very, very minuscule manifestation of this material that makes us. But we all we all go back. We're all of the same. And we forget that in this really, really short time period. We forget it and become, it's all about this one manifestation. But it's not, right? The amount of time before us and the infinite time after us in this little manifestation is far, far longer than us in this form. And the rest of the time, we're all part of each other. And so recognize that even during this time, we're part of each other. We got to care about each other.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how you look, what color you are, we're all the same. And that's so important. It's so important to understand. And we have, society has divided us and it's a lot of nonsense out there, So we just have to help it. And again, help our children. I hope that I know you wrote this book for adults, I'm guessing, but I hope it challenges you. I don't know why I just got this thought to write a book for children since you have a 7-year-old. Yeah. Are you working on that?
It is something I come back and forth to. Like, is it children? How young? Is it a young adult thing? It is very much something I want to do, because the more I have these conversations, the more I believe and feel and seem to see that getting to people earlier in life, just you get all the benefit of why wait 20 years to learn this stuff? Why not get it sooner, right?
Yeah, you need it soon. Like your daughter, 7, she's understanding, she's processing, she's learning. I mean, they say, what is it? The age, I forgot what the age cutoff is when you really learn like language. And I don't know if it's 7 or 8 years, like the first 7 years or something, they say it's good to learn like languages and certain things. So that's what we should do, incorporate it. I don't know. I have a vision that you're going to write a book for children. Okay. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I've written some children's books, not on this. So I think it's time to do it for this. Yeah.
And do it and like a more of a cartoon base, like a children's book, that they can see example and what it is about your thought process and how they can control their mind. I don't know. I just got this vision now. You're gonna do it. I'm gonna come back to you and ask you.
Right. That was a great idea. Thank you. I'm happy you spoke.
Hey, why not? Why not? You want to make sure your daughter gets the right path and all these other children. I'm really just want to help the children. I have an event space in Fort Lauderdale, so we put on different events, and I work with special needs children, which they got my heart now. Since I
Yeah.
started working with them, oh my gosh, I just love those children, and exactly that we're all one. And just a point I want to make about that when you see a special need child or somebody in a wheelchair or somebody that's just different from you, they don't know the difference. They don't know. We know. We see the difference. But those children, they don't. They think we're weird. How come you're different? Really? They think,
Yeah,
why
because
are we different?
their default is their world, right? So we're the ones that
Exactly.
are not like their world. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So they think that you're different, and then they don't understand how to process why people look at them bad or say things bad to them. I mean, it's really sad, the way society treats somebody that's different. And so I do a social, so that way they can come to my studio and they can enjoy music and they can dance, and there's room for the wheelchairs, and we don't judge. They just come in and they love it.
That's
you
fun.
know so
Yeah,
it's an open space for anybody who wants to come. And we accept everybody.
that's
you
great.
know
Yeah.
yeah, so just a little bit more love. Let's spread more love and kindness out there. That's how I want to end this
Kindness
one.
is always a choice, and it's always a right choice.
Exactly. So where do we find your book?
Books on Amazon, it's Barnes and Noble, anywhere you want to buy the book. It's hard copy, it's Kindle, it's audio book. You can find it on Audible. It's on all
Okay.
formats in the library. If you don't want to buy it, you can get it there. And then on my website, mandrewmcconnell.com, there's a free preview of it if you want to download that. There's the workbook with the exercises for free. So there are a bunch of free resources accessible as well for those interested in learning more.
Perfect. I'm going to check everything out, and then see, maybe we can incorporate it into one of my events that I do to help people with their mindset. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully.
Always doing kind of doing different things. We're gonna have like a wellness fair and have different people there. So it's one of those things. Anything, I'm always looking for different books like that, and that's how I find you. I got your press release, and I said, "Oh, this looks very interesting."
Yeah. Great.
So I really appreciate your time today. This was an awesome conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of the year and holidays, everything that's coming up.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah, that's been great.
and we'll keep in touch. And I'm waiting for that child book.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know. You'll get the credit. Say thank you for the inspiration.
All right, no problem. Have a great one.
All right, you as well.
All
Bye.
right, bye-bye. Hi, everybody. So that was our last episode 51, and it was awesome with our guest today. And I hope that you will check out his book. I'll have all the information here when I publish this podcast, and you're able to get his link and check out some samples of the book and see if it resonates with you. We're just trying to make a better world for everybody out there. So I appreciate you viewing us, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all our platforms. Rebooted the podcast. It's still on the Rebooted the podcast, and the website as well. And I hope you have a great day, everybody. So until next week, bye. And